Charlie, Chucky, Phil, and Lil and Susie. It's a rug rat from under the mat. It's a rug rat. It's a rug rat rap. It's a rug rat from under the mat. It's a rug rat. It's a rug rat rat.
Rugrats is one of the biggest children's animation series from the 90s, airing from 1991 to 2004. It starred Tommy Pickles, who led a group of babies, Chucky, Phil, Lil, Angelica, and sometimes Susie, experiencing new adventures and uncovering the mysteries of life from different perspectives. It was such a hit, enjoyed by children and adults alike, and was synonymous with Nickelodeon at the time. I must say the show covered a great deal of topics that I think are relevant to adults as well, such as growing up, facing death, and of course, the struggles of parenthood.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making chocolate pudding?
Because I've lost control of my life.
Aside from covering the occasional mature topic, the babies experienced the fear of the unknown, and I believe their imagination was sometimes their worst enemy, spawning several episodes that were a lot creepier than they needed to be, even for children. So for Mentoktober, we're gonna go over some of the most horrifying episodes of the Rugrats, and scenes that have been living in my head rent-free since the day they aired. In the episode The Shot, Tommy is scheduled to get his first booster shot. As he's discussing this with the other babies, Chucky recalls his experience of getting his shot with his doctor, Dr. Lecter. Okay, this should already be presenting some red flags. As he continues his story, this doctor's face slowly begins to distort as he transforms into his final form. You know, as a kid, I wasn't a fan of shots, so this episode was almost the gospel. In fact, the rest of the episode has Tommy befriending another baby named Hector at the doctor's office as they do everything in their power to escape. I don't blame you guys. The episode ends with Tommy and his new friend getting the shot and powering through it with no issues, while being rewarded with a humongous lollipop. So when I was growing up, this process wasn't as painless for me. But the episode carries a good message. Make sure you vaccinate your children. I'm sure many of us remember pondering what it would be like to have another sibling introduced to the family as a child. This episode is called Angelica's Worst Nightmare, where Angelica's parents celebrate the results of a pregnancy test. From a test tube, by the way. Am I missing something? Is this what those tests were like in the 90s? Once they share the news with Angelica, she struggles with the idea of her having to share her parents with the new baby, and wonders if they'll ever love her the same. This leads to her having an extremely vivid nightmare of the baby arriving, but something isn't right. This episode terrified me every time it came on. We couldn't just have a nightmare with Angelica being ignored by her parents while they took care of the new baby. They had to sprinkle some more nightmare fuel on it with this guy. Anyway, after this traumatic anus-blowing acid trip, Angelica awakens to a heartwarming conversation with her father, who reassures her that she'll always be special to them, even with a new baby in the household. The next day, they share the news that the test was a false positive, and they won't be having a new baby after all, permanently subjecting Angelica to only child syndrome. In the case of the missing Rugrat, Tommy and his grandfather head to the supermarket when he gets distracted by a vintage car belonging to another patron. With reluctant permission from the shopper, he sits in the car, placing Tommy in the back seat, while his shopping cart begins to drift dangerously to another vehicle. After barely stopping the cart in its tracks, he turns back to find the car and his grandson missing. When confronting the car owner, who is still standing in the lot, he reveals the car Grandpa was swooning over the whole time didn't actually belong to him. What an asshole. Tommy is mistakenly taken to a manor where we meet the Pendragon sisters, daughters of a late judge of some renown, and these two are absolutely horrifying. They convince their butler that Tommy was destined to fall into their hands, and they give him the name Bostwick. Tommy realizes something isn't right and begins a whole Metal Gear Solid mission to sneak away from these crazy sisters. After a somewhat traumatizing chase from the sisters, Tommy's grandfather eventually finds the house and provides proof that Tommy is indeed his grandson. I also noticed a very questionable picture in his wallet. Just a quick Easter egg for you guys. The designs of these sisters, the manner that looks straight out of Resident Evil 8, as well as the feeling of the child being in a household full of strangers, makes this a rather uneasy episode, especially with these sisters dabbling in borderline kidnapping charges, but like every other episode of Rugrats, all's well that ends well, right? The episode Chucky's Wonderful Life begins with the babies admiring the favorite CD of Chucky's dad, Chaz. They choose to take a closer look at it before it's nabbed by a prying Angelica. This leads Chucky to get upset at the other babies for even coming up with the idea of playing with his father's precious disc, and they decide to give him some space with his anger. Angelica decides to instigate further and tells Chucky he has no place in this world. Seriously, the writers didn't have her hold back on this one. Chucky decides to leave his family and friends for good, packing his belongings to run away in the middle of the night. He's stopped by another version of himself that begins to show him what the world would look like if he wasn't in it. The episode takes a majorly dark turn as the lack of his existence has apocalyptic effects on the world. All the parents lose control of their children, with Phil and Lil destroying their household. Chucky's dad loses his mind and relies on a sock puppet for company, while Tommy wanders in the dirt and garbage outside his home, with no purpose in life with his friend gone. Angelica steals Tommy's parents and has grown to be even more selfish and a complete glutton. Luckily, this vision empowers Chucky to believe in himself and his self-worth. He awakens from the vision, which seemed to be a dream in this case, and apologizes to the other babies, while Angelica faces the consequences of no dessert for a week, once her father discovers her playing with the lost CD like a frisbee. Overall, this episode has a good message that I think we can all hold on to even in our older ages. We do matter to those around us, and it's important to never lose sight of that fact. In the episode In the Dreamtime, we're shown the babies playing outside as normal before they decide to explore the doghouse belonging to Tommy's dog, Spike. Once inside, it begins to warp into a much larger palace, with Chucky suggesting that something is off. When asking Tommy for his opinion on the matter, we're treated with this scene. This moment unsurprisingly wakes up Chucky in the middle of the night, who realizes it was just a dream. With words of encouragement from his dad explaining that nothing can hurt you when you're dreaming, he goes right back to sleep. From there, the episode evolves into an Inception-like plotline. Maybe this gave Christopher Nolan some inspiration. Chucky spends the rest of the episode wondering what's a dream and what's reality, leaving the audience somewhat confused on whether he is dreaming or not. The episode ends with Chaz greeting Stu, Tommy's dad, in his house, explaining that he didn't know he was coming over, only to realize. I don't know if any of you have experienced dreams like this, where your mind mixes reality with unfamiliarity. It can make for some terrifying moments, just like this one. Sleep well, my children. Are we enjoying Mentoktober thus far? Of course, we still have time for Comment of the Week, where I select one comment from my previous video and showcase it at the end of the next one. This week's Comment of the Week is from Mentoktober, saying the editing on this is superb. I lulled, I liked, I subscribed. Simple, to the point, and very humbling. Thank you, Mentoktober, for enjoying my videos and giving me that little boost of encouragement. I appreciate it. But I'm giving you guys a double feature today with one more by AwesomeGamer445. Bruh, seeing the quality of the video, you need way more subscribers. That's what I keep telling the world, but I guess as long as I keep putting this out, the subscribers will come, right? Even still, thank you both for watching, and thank you for your support. If anyone still watching at this point wants more Mentoktober content, head on over to twitch.tv/TheMentok, where I'll be continuing the festivities. Thanks everyone for watching, and as always, be safe. The Prophet has spoken.